All right, folks, we're here on the Open Mic program here on the Sports Talk Nation, and joining me today to talk a little bit about some baseball is the man, the myth, the legend, and that is Robert Villarreal. Robert, how you doing? Of course, Robert works on Baseball Essential, covering the Chicago Cubs. Rob, what's up, man?
Not much. You know, am I doing? If I was any better, I'd beat you, buddy.
I don't know about that. I'll say this. The one guy who's doing well, I know this is another sport, the one guy who's really doing well is Aaron Rodgers after what he did to the Cowboys today by beating them in the last couple of seconds. So that...
Yeah, I was just, that's what I was just caught up watching when I was picking up my kids there, and that was just astounding. I mean, the defense stepped up there for Green Bay, and I'm totally not against that because I have Green Bay's defense on one of my fantasy teams. But yeah, Rodgers, I mean, when he ran and, I mean, that was just crazy. I thought it was all over when Prescott ran that naked boot. But, yeah, you can't count Rodgers out. And
no, you never can. I honestly thought the game was over, too. And then, Aaron Rodgers just does what he has done to the Cowboys seemingly forever. I mean, I remember when Brett Favre was around, Brett Favre could never beat the Cowboys, could never beat them. This guy... Just the Cowboys are he's the daddy. Let's just say that. Who's your daddy? It is Aaron Rodgers as far as the Dallas Cowboys are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, he really. I mean, there's always going to be someone that'll, bring up a reason that someone else could, bump him off the pedestal. But really, I mean, it's going to be Brady until he retires. He's always going to be the top, and then it's Rodgers.
Absolutely.
When Brady retires, it'll be Rodgers until he leaves. I don't see anyone else in the league, at least right now, or even up and coming in the NCAA, that's going to be knocking him off that pedestal anytime soon.
You mean you don't like DeShone Kizer with Cleveland? No,
Hey, you know what? I also have great hopes for Mitch Trubisky tomorrow night.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, me too, absolutely. I also just read that the Vikings coach said that Bradford will probably be running tomorrow night. So he'll probably be good to go, which is not good for the Bears because he's definitely the better quarterback.
Yeah.
In their system right now, and I mean, not that I want injuries, but they did lose their main running back last week, and their defense is scary. They got at least one guy on every level that could cause some damage, and I don't know. I hope good things for Trubisky. I really do. I think maybe it's a little early, but at the same time, you're not getting anything. I understand the value of sitting him on the bench and having him learn as he goes, but he's not going to learn anything watching what the Bears' offense is right now.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean,
I might as well get in there and cut loose and make mistakes. I mean, Peyton Manning did. This was he threw 27.
Yep.
27 picks.
That's right.
I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
But you know what? After that, no one doubted it. That season, blew it up.
Yeah, you know what? At least the Bears have some talent. I mean, you got like Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen. I mean, just hand off, give it to those guys, 30 times for the entire game, and maybe they can pull it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just manage it and just throw a little hot pass over the middle, a little tight end action or anything like that. Because the Bears don't have much by way of wide receiver, but yeah, just don't lose it. Just manage it and let the line and let the running backs and the tight ends win it for you, and hopefully the defense will do something. It's hard to say. I always counted the season watch, before anything even started, before Trubisky was even drafted. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes
anything at this point, above, okay, is a plus to me.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of feeling the same way too with the Jets because they're 3-2. And they shouldn't have won at all today. I mean, Cleveland just kind of gave them the game. The game said it was like, here, you know what? We don't feel like having this here. Merry Christmas in October, and they just gave the game away to the Jets for 60 minutes. They're 3-2. I had no expectations this year. I mean, for all I know, the Patriots are probably going to beat them like 75-0 next week. But you know what? It is what it is with them.
Yeah. Which I'm also okay with. I also have Brady on another team, and I'm totally okay with that.
Absolutely, man. So we're here, obviously talking let's jump into the baseball here, Robin. With the National League, the two National League series, you have the Dodgers that are up 2-0 on the Arizona Diamondbacks. I guess you could say it's somewhat surprising because they did have Robbie Ray pitching yesterday for Arizona. And then the Cubs game yesterday was really surprising because Chicago was up 3-0 or 3-1 and looked like they were just going to roll and dominate this game, take the 2-0 lead, and head back to Wrigley up 2-0. But you want to? I'll let you take care of this. You want to say it was a mismanagement of the bullpen or just an total implosion by the bullpen as the home runs by Zimmerman and Harper, and all of a sudden the Nationals come away with a 6-3 win.
Unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah.
People are. We've talked about how guys get slumps and then they come alive, and hindsight's always 20/20. You can always second guess a manager, the decisions or the non-decisions, however you want to see it, based on what goes on or doesn't go on, or what you think should have gone on. Oh, he should have put this other guy in instead. You can never really tell until the game's already over. I mean, Clayton Kershaw gave up 5 solo shots yesterday.
Yeah.
And they still won. Mm-hmm. So that's, you can never really tell. Are you going to sit there and say, if they didn't win, you should have pulled Kershaw. No one pulls Kershaw.
Mm-hmm.
So you can second guess it all you want, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just, they're human beings. They make mistakes, or, it's not that the Cubs were doing bad offensively, but yeah, you give up 5 runs in the 8th, and yeah, that will definitely do you in, unfortunately. And the Cubs are hitting decent, and the Nats really aren't hitting too well. But yeah, unfortunately, when you put your relievers in there, you want them obviously to get those outs, and Edwards gives up a couple of hits, Montgomery gives up a couple of hits, and just not even full inning worth of work, and yeah, that'll definitely do you in, and it's unfortunate. But at the same time, I mean, you're also talking about 2 guys, and Montgomery somewhat on the starting side of it because he's been doing some starting and long relieving and short relieving throughout the season. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about 2 players in Montgomery and Edwards Jr. that have been doing exceptionally well for the bulk of the season. I mean, you're obviously not going to be, absolutely lights out all the time. Everyone, even Mariano Rivera blew a save now and then. I say that, I'm not going to handle the Bible. I don't want to be cursed or anything, but
right.
It happens. We're all human, and mistakes occur, unfortunately. But it's really detrimental when it's in the playoffs and it's in a short series, and it includes a home run, and which unfortunately they both did. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, hindsight's 20/20. You can always second guess the manager, but I mean, at the end of the day, I trust what Joe Madden does.
Yeah.
You can always say, he should have done this, he should have done this. Well, you know what? That's the reason he's paid to do the job that he does, because he's better at that than me or you or anyone else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, mistakes happen, but sometimes it's not that. Sometimes you just got to trust the player to do their job, and, someone's going to win.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the immovable force, the unstoppable object. It's that sort of thing where, unfortunately, you're also facing batters who aren't professional.
No, you're 100% right. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. I mean, I look at the numbers that Carl Edwards Jr. has had lately. I mean, the guy's been phenomenal. You mentioned it. I mean, he only had 3 earned runs given up from August 11th through the end of the season. I mean, that was it. So you're obviously, yeah. I mean, if you're Joe Madden, that's definitely the guy you go out there. He had a great inning the night before. It just happens. I mean, look where the runs came from. I mean, you're talking about Bryce Harper and you're talking about Ryan Zimmerman, 2 of the top hitters in the National League. So it's not like he's giving up home runs to, Adam Lind and Michael Taylor. It's not like that's happening. So they're giving it up to some good hitters here for the Washington Nationals. So I think we have to give the Nationals some credit as well.
Yeah, Lynn did have a hit, but yes, that's.
Do they still?
You did a pinch hit there, but yeah, that unfortunately does happen. But yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You got Harper who's going to get a hit. Rendon is going to get. You're not going to blank Murphy forever. He's been on a slump, but it's not going to continue in the long run. He's going to come alive at some point. And I'm just afraid it's going to be in the series. I mean, he only got a hit last night, but you can't just plug up these guys forever. Whether it's, Weeders or Worth or anyone else. I mean, like I said, they're all professionals. and they can all club you at any given time. Given the right moment, the right pitch, and you hang on a little bit over the plate, and you'll pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing I'll say that is at least a positive from the Cubs' standpoint. Yeah, yes, the game was a crushing loss. I mean, you want to go out there 2-0. You have a chance to go out 2-0 and bring it home that way. But at the end of the day, they're bringing the series back to Chicago anyway. If you told anybody in the Cubs clubhouse and even in the Nationals clubhouse what would it be after 2 games, I guarantee probably most of them would say, if we can get out of there 1-1 and get back to Chicago, we'll be happy. And you know what? That's exactly what they have right now. So they get the chance to come home. You got Quintanilla on the mound. Not going to be not going to be an easy matchup, obviously, going up against Max Scherzer on the road, who was going to be on the road for the Nationals. But still, you get that home cooking there for Chicago. You have Jake Arrieta also there, sitting there for Game 4. And you go from there, and you see if you can try to squeeze one out against Scherzer. So you hope that Quintanilla has the game of his life, and go from there. Now, if the Cubs do lose Game 3, I think then you're going to start to have some people start to say, oh, well, if they won Game 2, this could have happened. Well, who knows? I mean, in anything, we're seeing that kind of second guessing all the time, especially this time of the year. But the bottom line is Chicago is going to be home now. They have a chance to possibly to finish this series off by the end of Tuesday.
It can definitely work out that way. Just a nice, sort of normal, at least in my, afternoon game at Wrigley. It feels a little weird to me, seeing a playoff game during the day. But I don't know, maybe I'm just not used to that. I just, used to seeing a lot of them at night, even last year with the Cubs, But, yeah, I mean, the Cubs have Quintana going for the next one against Scherzer. I mean, Scherzer is the best pitcher in the NL. That's, without a doubt. He had a ton of Ks, really good record, 16 wins. Mm-hmm. You can check me on that. I think 16 wins. Mm-hmm. But Quintana's doing really good too. I know he was 7-3 since he came over in July to the Cubs from the White Sox. Mm-hmm. He's been, not quite lights out, but he's been doing very, very good. As long as some run support, I guess you could say that about every pitcher, but really, he gets a couple runs, he'll do pretty good. He's unfortunately not really, to the best of my knowledge, without looking it up, faced a lot of these batters. I know he's faced some of the guys that were AL guys, like, Matt Wieters. Right. A couple times. But for the most part, he's not really ever had to see these guys. But that's also to the benefit of Chicago and saying, well, the hitters haven't seen him either. Mm-hmm. So, outside of tape, they're not sure how he's going to approach it, what's he going to do, and, he's behind in the count, et cetera. So, they'll just have to rely on some experience from their manager, a couple of the other players, like I said, like Wieters or anyone else who's faced them, and I don't think there's more than a handful, maybe 2 or 3 on that team that's ever faced Quintana in a regular season game. So I think that can also work to the Cubs' benefit.
In fact, I'm going to pull this up now because I could see that Quintana hasn't faced them at all this year with either Chicago team, for that matter. And in his career, the Washington Nationals as a team are hitting .265, but it's a very small sample size because you're looking at only 5 hitters. That's it. The guy who's had the most success has been Kendrick, who saw him a lot when he was with the Angels, 5 out of 10. And Ray Rayburn had 4 hits out of 23 at-bats. Other than that, everyone else has had a very small sample size. So it is, I agree with you, a benefit to Quintana from that standpoint. And I think really the key for this game is not only jumping out early, that's obviously the ideal, but if you can find a way for Quintana just to get on a roll and just to keep this thing close. I'm talking like 1-0, 2-1, even 0-0. You really want to stay close and get this thing into the later innings against a guy like Scherzer because if they can, let's say, get to the 7th, 8th inning, maybe not always the ideal thing, obviously. You want to try to have runs much sooner than that. But if you can get into the later innings and get yourself into the bullpen of the Nationals and get Scherzer out of there, that's obviously the most ideal thing.
Yeah. The only issue is, you want to kind of grind them down and have some good solid at-bats and get them to put more pitches in, and hopefully they end up pulling them a little sooner. The only unfortunate side of that is that in the playoffs, they'll give the starting pitchers a little bit more rope.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see guys a lot, nowadays in the regular season. Okay, this guy's going to throw 90 pitches, 100, 105, and he's on a pitch count, and that's it. In the playoffs, you'll readily see these guys like Scherzer, if they're good, and usually they are. They won't say they want to come out. I mean, they'll throw a good 120, 130 pitches. So that can help them go deep as well, as long as they're not getting shelled or giving up a lot of runs. But even when it's Scherzer, even if he's giving up 3 or 4 runs possibly by the 7th or 8th inning, I don't see him pulling them if he's still throwing strong. But at the same time, I don't know. It's a hard sell. You're absolutely right that I think the downfall, or the feasible downfall, at least for the Nationals, would be their relief pitching. But that unfortunately was the Cubs' downfall in their previous game. So you can never tell. You can never tell.
And also if Scherzer coming back off the hamstring injury. Now he is well enough to pitch in this game, obviously, but the Nationals probably would have liked to have had him pitch earlier in the series. That I think will be an interesting storyline as well, to see how long he's going to last in this game. Now, off the top of the head, you're going to think, okay, well, Scherzer's going to give you 6, 7 innings. But his last start only went 3 1/3 because of that injury. So which Max Scherzer are we going to see here? Certainly he's had enough rest. I mean, he's had almost 2 whole weeks of rest here since he's last pitched. That's going to be a very fascinating storyline going into this game on Monday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I mean, he is the best pitcher in the NL. I mean, he had the tweaked hammy, and hamstrings are always. I mean, I don't know about yourself. I mean, I played a good bit of sports in my youth. I don't want to say in my youth like I'm old now, but but I was younger. I played a lot more sports than I do today. But I had my fair share of bumps and bruises and breaks, but hamstrings are definitely the worst, especially when you're playing running sports. And unfortunately, even if you say, well, he's not running, he's pitching, but it changes things. Because when
off season,
when you change how you throw, based on a hamstring, well, okay, you're going to change your delivery a little bit. That's going to change the angle of velocity, and that can really, put a lot of stress and wear and tear, and maybe wear him out earlier, or unfortunate for him, maybe even put one over the plate when he didn't mean to. So hamstring injuries can be very, very difficult. But I mean, if he's ready to go, he's ready to go. And unfortunately for everyone in the Cubs lineup, if he's ready to go, it's not going to be, a great day. He's got a sub-3 ERA against the Cubs in a handful of starts. So I mean, they on the plus side for the Cubs, they have seen him a couple times. Last year they did face him twice in the division series, and they beat him both times. So I mean, it's not that he's unbeatable, but you can never tell. It's just like you said about all the great guys, whether it's Felix Hernandez or Clayton Kershaw or anyone else. When they bring their stuff, they really, really bring it. So you never quite know what you're going to see. You just got to chip away and grind it down and hopefully, get to that bullpen and do some work on that. I don't know. I think the Scherzer that we're going to see in the next day is probably going to be healthy, and he's probably going to be good.
Yeah, he probably will be. I mean, I would certainly expect him to pitch good baseball tomorrow in that game against the Cubs, and like you said, it's going to be about grinding him out as much as the Cubs can, and the Cubs certainly have the tools to do so. The question is, can they jump on him soon enough before he starts to get on a roll? And when that happens, usually it's very, very tough to beat, as we all know. So that's going to be very interesting. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I have to ask you this. Is there some nerves, do you think? Do you think Cubs fans are feeling kind of nervous, especially after what happened yesterday, considering what the matchup's going to be tomorrow against Scherzer, with Arrieta, of course, going on Tuesday in what could be a must-win either way, to try to either keep the series going or move on?
Well, I mean, in the playoffs, I mean, if you take a broad perspective, I mean, every game's a must-win.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you want to win every game, because that one that you just kind of gave up could be that you're done for the playoffs. We're not going to see you again until you report in February. So every game's a must win, and it's hard to say. Get a feel for the crowd sometimes, but I think. Excuse me, sorry, a little while there.
You're good.
I think after seeing how the Cubs went about the playoffs last year, you can see that they can get down, but they also have the tools to make a comeback, to stay in it, and that even if you are down, by 2 or 3 runs in the middle innings, you can still make a game of it because they have that ability. I mean, you've got guys in the Cubs bench, position player-wise, that could start on a lot of teams. And it's just an embarrassment of reaches that, really benefits the Cubs even when they are facing up against a guy like Scherzer. So I wouldn't think that people would be too concerned. Like I said, after seeing it last year, I know that there always was a buzz of concern every year. It's like, they get in the playoffs, they wouldn't get in the playoffs. Or when they did, it's like, they did poorly. Or even like 2 years ago when they lost to the Mets, everyone just kind of thought they were, going to steamroll them, really. And the Mets just showed them up. The Cubs didn't show up. They didn't get more than a couple hits in the entire series. And no one expected that. But, you just got to understand it's just a game of longevity and averages. And, it's you're not going to win every game, unfortunately. Everyone wants to, but you're not going to. You just got to take your licks. That's why it's a series. That's why you don't just play one game and that's it. You give them a series because, some guys can turn it on or turn it off, whatever. It's going to be a whatever given situation. But overall, I think that the Cubs fans as a whole, could obviously be worried because you always want to be up in the series. You don't want to be tied. You don't want to be down. But having seen the Cubs come back multiple times last year, they know it's possible. And they know that, it can happen again.
It can. We'll see if they can do it. We're starting, obviously, tomorrow with Game 3. Now, the other National League series, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, of course, leading that series 2-0. One thing that's kind of stood out here for the Dodgers, when you look at them, what they've done in this postseason, Cody Bellinger hasn't really caught fire yet. He's had a tough start to the postseason. Had a great year, obviously, but so far hasn't hit yet. Is guys like Justin Turner, guys like Logan Forsythe, a guy like Austin Barnes, who's really come out of nowhere, for the last half of the season, where he was really hitting well. Those are the kind of players that are getting the job done in this series so far for the Dodgers. Turner had that 3-run home run the other day. That got things started for L.A. Barnes has had a couple of RBIs. I mean, we could sit here and talk about the Dodgers and the long losing streak they had in September, where they lost, I think it was 17 out of 18 or 18 out of 19, whatever it was. And I'm concerned about the Dodgers. I especially am concerned about them with the pitching beyond Clayton Kershaw, about what they can do in a longevity in a tough series against a really, really good team like a Chicago, like a Cleveland. But in a series like this against a team that they know pretty well, like Arizona, they have been able to hit on all cylinders against that pitching staff. And I do wonder, because again, you had Robbie Ray pitching yesterday for Arizona. He did pitch in that wild card game for a couple of innings, I think 2 1/3 innings against Colorado. You wonder, with just such a short break in between, maybe that played a role in him getting rolled over yesterday in that game.
Yeah, anything's possible. Like I said, it's absolutely feasible, but at the same time, you also gotta just kind of look ahead. Unfortunately, I mean, you could say anything you want about this guy got shelled, this guy didn't, or it just goes back to what we were saying a couple minutes ago about hindsight's 20/20 and second guessing. But a lot of times you just got to trust that these guys are professionals. You just got to trust the managers. They know their players and they know what they're doing, because really, I mean, it's their jobs too. Players don't perform, they get traded, they get cut. Managers don't perform, they get cut. It happens. But I don't know. On paper, I think the Dodgers and the the Diamondbacks look pretty close, a lot closer than the Dodgers 2-0 lead. But you're right, the Dodgers are definitely hitting a lot better. But I think that's going to be hard against Greinke, facing up against his old team. But the Dodgers also have Darvish going, so I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'll probably take Greinke in that matchup. But it's hard to say I'll take Greinke in the matchup when he's going to face the better batters. The Diamondbacks really aren't hitting anything right now. It's really hard for them to get on the roll. They can't put together even a couple of hits.
Yeah, I mean, even in the wild card game, even though he scored all those runs, I mean, Paul Goldschmidt hasn't gotten going yet. I mean, that's a big problem for them, and he's their leader in basically every statistical category. They really need him to get rolling in this series starting tomorrow night.
Yeah. Everyone's got to get going. It's good to have guys back that were injured early on, like AJ Pollock, and Anita Lamb. I mean, not that they were injured, but I mean, these are just key role players. JD Martinez, anyone else that you can't just depend all on Paul Goldschmidt. You have to have Drury out there hitting. You have to have Peralta out there hitting. It's just what's got to happen, because you even on the opposite side, whether you say Corey Seager, Chris Taylor, Justin Turner, Logan Forsythe, I mean anyone else, you can't just say, well, it's all got to be Seager and Taylor. Well, no, you need Puig to step up, or Gramsci, or anyone else, Bellinger, like you mentioned. So it's a hard sell either way, and you can always second guess the moves later on, but often I just say, you know what, the manager made the best call he could, the time that he had with the players and options that were in front of him. So, I'd love to second guess him all the time, but that's why I say, you know what, he did the best he could with what he had.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like Greinke against Yu Darvish tomorrow, that's which is going to be a fun matchup. This is a big one for Darvish, because he was the big acquisition right at the deadline, and this is an opportunity for him to kind of establish himself as going to be that go-to number 2 guy here in the playoffs. Other than Kershaw, and I think he's been kind of shaky. I mean, the times that I've seen him in LA, he's really hasn't been that great. Gave up five runs here against San Diego, 5 runs against Colorado. Had a bad start against Milwaukee, so he's been inconsistent for the most part for LA. So this is a huge start for him, and this will be I believe it will be his first postseason start. And you're going up against a guy in Greinke who's had some success. I mean, not exactly great success, but has had some success in the postseason. He's on full rest here since that wild card game. I expect Greinke going up against his old team to pitch pretty well in this baseball game. Not saying he's going to win, not saying that Arizona's going to cut this thing down to 2-1, but I do expect him to pitch much better than he did in his last outing against Colorado.
No, I'm certain that he will. I mean, yeah, he only pitched a couple, 3 and a third, 3 and 2/3, something like that, against the Rockies in a wild card game. And he gave up a couple of runs and a couple of hits, and unfortunately, that's bound to happen. But I think the Dodgers are still going to see Greinke's good stuff. Darvish, obviously, he was acquired to be a great number 2, but at the same time, the Dodgers like to throw Rich Hill at home rather than away, so that's why Darvish is going tomorrow instead of running with the number 2 spot. So that happens, but there's a lot of teams do that. That's some guys really just perform better at home, and there's nothing wrong with running that kind of system. Last year the Dodgers only had 2 pitchers to go throw out there, so I'm sure they're happy to have 3 or so this year. They're pretty happy. I think they will definitely do a lot better with Darvish. He's got he does have a pretty good road record, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's at least above 500. But he hasn't pitched in a little bit, so he could. Differing on how that goes. I mean, that hurts. That hurts guys a good bit. He hasn't pitched in a good week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to get get rusty really quick, especially when it's a game like baseball where you kind of have to, keep moving. You have to, muscle has memory, and it loses that memory really fast. That's why a lot of guys aren't going to get in the game, still up in the bullpen warm up or anything like that. Even basketball, you see guys on the sidelines, they put them on a bike,
Mm-hmm.
They're sweating their butt off, but you got to stay warm. You got to keep the muscles moving and fluid. So, that, I think, could hurt you Darvish a little bit, having not started and not played in a couple weeks. But I don't know. It's a really hard sell. Honestly, with when you were talking about how LA, they lost a good couple games there, they were on a really terrible skid there near the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have thought they'd do anything. I'm honestly surprised to see them 2-0, but at the same time, it's also, even if I'm surprised to do 2-0 after they skid, it's really hard to bet against them because they are so good, because it is Yu Darvish, because it is Clayton Kershaw,
right,
because it is Corey Seager. It's hard to bet against a team that's that good, but I don't know. I think Greinke will get the better of them tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be I think it's going to turn to a good series, and I agree with you. I thought this would be a little bit closer. I thought it would be 1-1 right now because these two teams know each other so well. Yep. But you know what? The Dodgers are starting to catch fire. They did have a nice little finish at the end of the year. I believe they swept Colorado at the end of the year going into the postseason. So even though they had a horrible losing streak, they are still at 102 wins. Have to be considered a favorite to go to the World Series. Whether they win it or not is another story right now. I kind of like Cleveland right now with the way they're playing, but we'll see what happens. It's always series to series. For all we know, we could end up with, let's just say, Cubs Dodgers in the LCS, and I just like that matchup for the Cubs in some respects, and maybe the Cubs just catch fire at the right time and they find a way to win a couple of games, pull out a couple of games that turns that series. You just never know. So we'll see what happens when we get there. But, as of right now, the Dodgers are playing good baseball, really good baseball.
Yeah. It's always a surprise all around. You never really know how things are going to work out. I've been scared of the Astros all year, and they are leading the series. I'm honestly a little surprised that the Indians are leading the Yankees right now 2-0, just because, the Yankees have been hitting pretty well pretty much all season. I don't think they've really had any too many issues with the bats other than, Judge, quote, air quotes, cooling off a little bit when, I hate to say that because he's really just been tearing it up all season. It's just, people expected him to hit 85 home runs and he didn't. So now, but, I don't know. I think that the Yankees could put a dent in it, but the way that Cleveland's playing right now, I don't know that they're, not going to move on to the next rounds against the Astros.
Well, right now, I'm looking across at a television set, very small television set, by the way. I must add, as I'm in the studio here, and it is the bottom of the third. It is 0-0. That is low for a ball. 0-0 between the Indians and the Yankees, and this is a must. Carlos Carrasco, an 18-game winner on the hill for Cleveland. Masahiro Tanaka has to pitch the game of his life, which is saying it's pretty much an understatement from the Yankees fan standpoint. And so far, he's pitched well. 3 innings of shutout baseball. I gotta say this: you brought it up with second guessing and fans getting taking these games way too personally sometimes, and trying to overreact sometimes to the way these playoff games go. As it is just baseball from a day-to-day standpoint, but the vitriol, the anger in New York over Joe Girardi after a decision that he should have made, maybe he didn't need to make. Really, it was a tough call because of the hit batter where the ball may have hit the hitter in the glove, may have hit the knob of the bat instead. No one's really sure. It was a really bang play, and everyone just tore into Joe Girardi here in New York City. And I think very unfairly. It's literally people here in New York saying that Girardi should be fired, which I think is crazy. Okay, so maybe he screwed up a call in a game, a crucial game in the playoffs. I understand that. You're upset the team lost after having an 8-3 lead. I understand that. But you know what? The guy has won 90-plus games almost every single year in New York. He's won a World Series in New York. Not exactly an easy place to win consistently year in, year out. And the Yankee fans want him gone. I just don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. Whether the Yankees win this game tonight or not, in my mind, doesn't matter. I mean, they're probably going to lose the series anyway to Cleveland. Cleveland's not good. I wouldn't hold that against Joe Girardi. I mean, the guy's won 91 games this year. He took a team that had no expectations, and he got them into the playoffs. He's managed two young hitters in Judge and Sanchez, who are going to turn into two of the best players in the sport, and he's managed them very well. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know how you feel, Rob, but I just think that the New York fans have just unloaded unfairly on Joe Girardi in this last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, beginning of the season, I had no faith in the Yankees making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Also, I was pretty stunned. But he's really, had these guys doing very well. There's no way around that, really. Like I said, I mean, yeah, you've got guys like Judge who've been hitting pretty well. That he's got other guys who've been, so at times with Ellsbury or Frazier. Mm-hmm. Or anyone else, but it's still, the matter of how it puts in the right guys in the right lineup. And everyone thinks, it's going to be it's going to be the same lineup every day. It's always the same guys, but it's not. It's different situations. When people say, well, I don't care about lefty-righty matchups, well, they do, and that's why they're paid to do what they do. And
mm-hmm.
The same sort of thing came up last season in the playoffs with Joe Madden.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's second-guessing him on a decision, and it's like we said before, and you say it 1,000 times, you can always second guess it. You can always say, well, this should have happened. Well, you don't know because, if they're right, no one cares.
Mm-hmm.
You always care when something doesn't work out your way. So it's really hard to, at least, I think for myself, second guess a lot of these guys. Having played the sport a good bit myself, mm-hmm. or even just, doing writing or whatnot, from our end, trying to take a, nonpartisan, sort of, just kind of see everything from the outside, a third person perspective, to see everything and try not to be, partial to any one team or any one reason. Really, you're absolutely right. He's done a fantastic job with the Yankees. Mm-hmm. He's really turned around a lot of guys who've not been doing good. Mm-hmm. Classically, even the Cubs letting go of Castro. You kind of middle infield there with Gregorius and Castro. That they're two of the top three guys in errors over like the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. How do you get to the playoffs with a middle infield like that?
I know. I know.
There's a lot of things involved there that a lot of people don't see because they're just casual fans, or they just watch when the team hits the playoffs, or anything like that. I see it a lot when I've seen a lot of, and this is in no way bragging about Chicago being Chicago, but I've seen a lot over the past couple of years, whether it was the Cubs or the White Sox, or the Blackhawks, mm-hmm. Winning the championship like 3 out of the past 7 years now. You see a lot of fair weather fans, a lot of people jumping on, oh, hey, I'm a Blackhawks fan now, or things like that. They kind of jump in at the end, and they didn't really see all the work that went into it to get there. It's just a completely different thing. And yeah, to second guess a guy who's done the job, has been doing the job for years. He's literally been in baseball his entire life. Mm-hmm. Played for multiple teams. Did play for the Cubs once upon a time. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He's done a really good job.
He's been phenomenal.
I can't say anything bad about the job that he's done. Honestly, before the Cubs even had an option at Madden, they were talking about getting Girardi, and I was friggin' ecstatic. Mm-hmm. I was jacked out of my gourd, and then they got Madden, and that was good.
Yeah,
but
mm-hmm.
But I didn't see a lot of Madden. I didn't know a lot about him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch a lot of the AL stuff. I didn't really, see a lot of what he did down in Tampa, but I've seen a lot of what Girardi's done, and I really like him as a manager.
Yeah, I do too. He's going to be
really
available.
Easy to get on someone for doing something, quote unquote bad or wrong, but you know what? It didn't seem wrong at the time.
Yeah, and
it's hard to get down on someone and think they should fire him. In hindsight,
And here's the funny thing is that he's gonna have his no contract after the season ends. He's gonna be a free agent. I don't see the Yankees not re-signing him. I just don't think I don't see how that's not going to happen. I think he'll be back. But think about this. Even after Chisenhall gets hit by a pitch, and then Lindor hits the grand slam, makes it 8-7. It was only 8-7. So all these Yankee fans going, "Oh my God, he didn't challenge Chisenhall getting hit by a pitch." Well, the grand slam didn't put the Indians in the lead or tie the game. Only made it a one-run game. So, why not? How about Dave Robertson get Jay Bruce out instead of serving up a meatball in the middle of the plate, and Bruce just cracks it out over the left center field wall, tie the game up. Why doesn't someone get some hits? In
any of those pitches either.
Yeah, exactly. Get some hits. And then there was plenty of opportunities for the Yankees to get some guys on. Ninth inning, they had something going against Andrew Miller, and they didn't cash in. So there were opportunities throughout that game for them to cash in and make the hit by pitch against Chisenhall really mute, and they didn't do it. So I just think Yankee fans need to chill out. I do see that Jason Kipnis hit a triple. I'm sure that's Joe Girardi's fault as well. But the fans they need to blame somebody, and it's always easy to blame the manager. And we see this all the time in sports. Team struggles, they go have high expectations. Let's say the NFL, for example. It was like, we're going to go to a Super Bowl, and you start off 0-5, New York Giants, and everyone wants the head coach fired. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean,
right, and I understand that in certain situations. You want to look at, I mean, again, an easy Chicago example, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
they're, they've got a coach who just won his 9th or 10th game 2 weeks ago, and it took them 3 years to do it. So that's pretty terrible.
It sucks.
And not that they have a lot of great options afterwards. I don't know if he'll be back next year, but if he wasn't, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. But then again, that's also a couple years in, and it's a different sport. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, if you've got guys working together, working towards a common goal and playing well together. And because there's, like I said, there's a lot of fair weather people. They don't see a lot of the things inside baseball where it's not just, this guy makes a lineup card or, he decides who comes in for the bullpen. He's got to manage, 25 personalities. There's a lot more to it. He also manages their day. Well, time off or, you guys don't come to the batting cages early because I need you guys to get a little more rest. Things like that. They don't see those sorts of things, but those sort of things that those upper echelon managers will do. And I count Girardi up there. And I know he hasn't, won a series in the past year or two or anything like that. But still, I mean, you don't have to be one of those upper guys. There's a lot worse they could do in the manager position, and I would be beyond stunned if he wasn't signed by the Yankees again for the 2018 season and beyond. Because if he's not, offered a contract like that first day or two, I guarantee someone else is going to be knocking on his door.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the same thing also with John Farrell in Boston. A lot of talk that Dave Dombrowski wants to move on and bring in his own guy. I've heard Brad Ausmus's name linked to that. That makes no sense there. But honestly, if Joe Girardi and even John Farrell both end up on the market, they'll be unemployed for about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We'll see who beats who as far as time is concerned. Like, can someone eclipse 2 minutes and 29 seconds?
Guys competing on the phone call. They keep dialing at the same time, so it keeps being busy. It's whoever dials faster.
Exactly. I mean, note to the Mets. Hey, you may end up with two great managers on free agency. Go get them.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, my goodness. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I agree. I mean, if the Yankees don't re-sign Joe Girardi, I would be stunned. I would be beyond stunned. In fact, I would be... I'm not even a Yankee fan. I would be somewhat upset because he doesn't deserve that kind of treatment if that's the case. And look, the Indians are a great team. As I said before, I think they have a team that could certainly go to the World Series. No insult to Houston at all. I just like the way the Indians are built. I like their pitching all the way through, and I just like the addition of Jay Bruce in the middle of that order. Just adds a little power there in the middle with the lefty bat. But if the Indians sweep the Yankees, if you're a Yankee fan, why should you feel insulted? That's a great team they're playing, and I really think that no one should be too upset, as far as I'm concerned, in New York.
Yeah, I mean, I always say I never feel bad, losing to the victor.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people get as a Bears fan, a lot of people get salty, about the Packer games. And, sometimes the Lions, sometimes the Vikings, but always the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know people who would rather go 2-14 every year and never win a Super Bowl again as long as those 2 wins are against the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
I think those people are absolutely insane because I will take 2 losses every year to the Packers if you guarantee me a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather go 14-2 every year because it doesn't really matter. But I mean, if I am going to lose, I would rather lose to the victor. I don't feel as bad that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a personal feeling. I mean, it's like you said a couple of minutes ago. It's just a sport. It's just entertainment. It's funny. I was actually saying that to my daughter earlier. I don't remember exactly what she said or how she brought it up, but I'm like, it's a business.
Yeah.
People want entertainment. They're going to pay money for it. I'm going to provide that entertainment. You're going to give me money. It's just a business. And yeah, there are lives involved. But there are lives involved in everything. There's lives involved in my business. It's just how life works. But I don't know. I wouldn't be salty about it. And, I mean, just like that. I mean, I wouldn't be salty if the Cubs lost. I'd love to see them win. I'd love to see them win another championship.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know it's really hard to do that in baseball. It's hard to do that in any sport.
Yeah.
But although it seems really easy for the Patriots. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna see them again in a couple of months, and they'll come back and they'll play. But I don't know. I think you're right. The Indians are really on a tear. I think that the only competition they really got is the Astros. I mean, in the AL side, I think
Mm-hmm.
the Astros are their bigger competition. I think if anyone can bump them off, it'll be the Astros. I don't think the Sox will do any damage to them. And I think the Yankees might get a win here, but I don't think they're going to get 2, unfortunately.
No.
You're right. I mean, they've just been way too hot. But I think the Astros can still put a dent in them. And, I think the Cubs can too. I'd love to see a rematch of last year's World Series.
Me too.
Would be fantastic.
That would
be. But like I said, it's always second guessing. You never know because people were talking about, should Joe Madden even have his job? That's last year. Are you kidding me?
Someone said that?
Come on.
Someone said that?
There were fans, and as I was reading and hearing like on local sports radio.
Yeah.
They were questioning his moves, different moves in the series. But it was the exact same thing like Joe Girardi.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think, I'm not trying to be biased, I do think Joe Madden's the best manager in baseball right now.
Okay.
But, there's obviously a couple guys up there with him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's on a level with 5 or 6 guys, and I just mean he's up there. I don't mean he's like the absolute pinnacle, but he's up there with those 4 or 5 guys that are the best in baseball. And there's a reason that when Tampa Bay let him go, he was in Chicago in a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the exact same thing that happened to Girardi. People get salty. Things happen, but, those people also don't always understand the game as much. Not that I know everything, but I don't know.
No, you are absolutely right, 100% right. I mean, that's why the game is what it is. I mean, I said this to someone on Facebook. I said, "There's no such thing as a perfect manager." You mentioned Joe Madden. Joe Madden was a great manager. He had a bad postseason last year, even though the Cubs won a World Series. Terry Francona's right up there with him, one of the best managers in the sport.
Oh yeah,
and he lost the World Series last year. So, is there such a thing as the greatest manager in history of the world? No. If there is a greatest manager in history of the world, he probably has a winning percentage of 1,000, and that does not exist, of course. So there are a lot.
Right,
the point is, there's a lot of good managers.
It's always contestable. It's always arguable. I mean, you look at Brett Auerbach.
Yeah.
The Celtics. He had 11 championships.
Mm-hmm.
Still not considered the best.
People say Phil Jackson is. I mean, that's that's.
Yeah. They still say Phil Jackson, and I want to side with the Phil Jackson guys because I'm a Chicago guy, but still, I mean, you got to look at, I know I wasn't around for the Red Auerbach era, but still, it's you got to look at some of these other guys, or even if you look in the collegiate ranks, because if you talk about all the coaching, you got to talk about Pat Sennett, or some of these other guys. Obviously, Wooden, for crying out loud, it's more than just it's more than just like I said, making lineups. It's about managing players and personality, and teaching and developing human beings rather than just a good lineup.
Yeah,
absolutely. They're definitely up there. Yeah, you can't say that Terry Francona is any less of a manager because he was a part of the losing team in the World Series last year, because he is a phenomenal manager.
Yeah, it's just not fair, and that's why with baseball you just gotta let it play out every single day, and just the players really decide who wins and who loses. That's when you get to this time of the year when you have all these great teams going up against each other. Yes, the manager can make a difference as far as a bad decision, good decision. I totally understand that, but at the end of the day, it's up to the players to execute. And so far, if you are a fan of the Indians, if you're a fan of the Astros, Dodgers, you're pretty happy right now because those teams have executed pretty well so far through the first couple of games of these playoffs, and we'll see what happens. I mean, look, Boston won today. They had their backs to the wall, and they won big. They won 10-3 today. They had a huge day, 15 hits. Hanley Ramirez went nuts, went 4 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Yeah, huge day for Hanley. Yeah, did he have a home run? He did not, but doesn't matter. He still had 4 RBIs, or 3 RBIs. You also had Devers. He had a big day, 2 out of 3. Rafael Devers coming out of nowhere, going 2 out of 3 with 3 RBIs. He had the home run. Jackie Bradley Jr. had a 3-run blast, so bottom of the order was huge for Boston in that game. Like I said, you just never know what's going to happen one day to the next. And that's now a series. It's now 2-1, and we'll see what happens tomorrow when those two teams meet again in the afternoon. If the Yankees can find a way to get a win here, all of a sudden that's now a series. So you just got to let the players play at the end of the day in this time of the year.
Yeah, because you never really know how it's going to work out, and then you put a guy in the proper situation, and he can rise to the occasion. I mean, just like you were talking about the Red Sox, David Price. Mm-hmm. Never really been given the opportunity on that kind of team and that kind of situation, and he goes out and he just lights out. Mm-hmm. He's never really been a reliever. He's always been a starter, but he gets put into a relief position, and he really rises to the occasion and fills the role exactly as he needed to. Yeah, and if he would have got shelled, you shouldn't have put him in there or anything like that. You can always second guess it, but at the end of the day, the winners win, the losers lose, and yesterday the Red Sox won. They're proving that they deserve to be there just as much as the Astros.
Mm-hmm. And they got Porcello going tomorrow. And I know Porcello's had a bad year. I wouldn't be shocked Porcello goes out there, pitches great against Charlie Morton. And that's nothing against Charlie Morton, who's had a good year for Houston, but I would not be surprised if that goes to a Game 5. That wouldn't shock me at all now. It really wouldn't. Wow.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm right there with you, because honestly, I don't. I wouldn't put money on either of those guys.
No, I wouldn't either. So that's kind of a that's a pick 'em. If we were at a casino in Vegas or Atlantic City, like, let's just make that a pick 'em. That's all we can do right there. Oh man.
That's right.
So before we close this out, Rob, I just want to quickly just get your thoughts. What do you think we're going to see here as far as we move through the division series? Just kind of your predictions as we move into the end of the division series towards the LCS.
Well, I think it's going to be Astros, Indians. It's really hard to say right now exactly who's going to go through to the final round. But honestly, if I had to pick today, I'm still going to say Astros, because I still believe in that offense until they show me that I can't believe in it anymore. But I've said Astros all year, and I'll still say Astros. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I was saying Astros all year for the AL. I actually picked the Cardinals to win it at the beginning of the season, so that obviously blew up in my face. But what you gonna do? I'm not that mad about it. But I don't know. I think in the NL it's a lot tighter. But I don't. It's hard to say. I think the Cubs can do it just as much as the Dodgers. I think that if it's the Cubs and the Dodgers, I think that it's going to be really tight. I think it could go 6-7 games. I think that if it's Dodgers Nationals, I think the Dodgers win a lot faster. Not that the Cubs are bad, but it looks like the Nationals, I mean, with a couple of injuries and the pitchers get worn down a little bit, I just don't think that they have the legs, to last the marathon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just feel like more of a sprint team than a long run sort of team. And Diamondbacks, I don't know. They played good all season, and good for them. I'm happy for them. But I don't know, unless they can wake up the bats a little bit, I don't see them really even getting a win here outside of maybe tomorrow, and that's just off of the back of Greinke's pitching.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you need runs, and the Diamondbacks just aren't getting them right now. I mean, like I said, good for the Yankees, good for the D-backs, but if I had to guess, I'd say Astros, Indians, and Cubs, Dodgers, and then Astros, Cubs, and, that's a hard one for me.
That is a hard one.
I want to say Cubs, but there's in my heart of hearts, I don't know. And until I see them lose, I really think right now it's going to be the Astros.
I'm not sure either. I mean, but we're going to be on that point. I mean, I'm right with you as far as the matchups are concerned. I like the Houston Astros and the Cleveland Indians myself coming out of the American League Division Series and getting to the LCS. I also like Chicago and the Dodgers as well. And as far as matchups are concerned, I think just the idea that the Cubs have already beaten the Dodgers, the fact that they have that experience kind of gives them a bit of an edge. And that's no disrespect to the Dodgers, who are a great team, but if the Cubs go out there and get like the first game of an LCS against the Dodgers, all of a sudden everyone's going like, here we go. So that first game is going to be huge between those two teams. And I like the Astros for a long time, but I've been seeing a lot more of the Indians of late. I'm kind of falling in love with what they're doing right now. And I would not be shocked if we see a rematch of what we saw last year with the Cubs and the Indians. That would be phenomenal if we get that Cubs-Indians rematch.
Yeah, that would be really great. It would. I mean, just, from the perspective just as a fan and want to see something like that again. And it's just a hard sell all around because, if you're good enough to get to this deep in the playoffs, you definitely in some way deserve to. You really earned it. So, you could absolutely be right. It can really go Indians over Astros, but I don't know. I'm an Altuve fan. I think their offense. The Indians pitching can definitely beat the Astros hitting when it comes down to it. So I could definitely be swayed to see it your way. It's just a hard sell. Like I said, it's even when I say Astros, Cubs, or anything, or even if it was Indians, Cubs in the series, Cubs fan, but I would have a hard time picking the Cubs right now because the AL just didn't really stop this year. So either way, it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
It's going to be great. I can't wait to see how this thing plays out. Rob, I want to thank you for coming on, man, talking some baseball, of course, as we always do, and certainly catch up with you in a couple of weeks. We'll see how this thing turns out.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, take care, man. All right, folks, that's Robert Villarreal of Baseball Essential. I want to thank him for coming on and joining us here today. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in and listening. Remember to follow us on the social media, facebook.com/OpenMicProgram, on Twitter, @OpenMicNJ on Twitter, and, of course, hit the like and subscribe right here on the Sports Talk Nation. We'll talk to you next time.